Become a conjuice, spend less, be ready to suffer today, invest as much as you can, and then become rich in your old age. Who wants such a life? Let's find out in this video how starting in your 20s can help you become rich without being a conjuice. Hi investors, welcome to yet another video. The kind of life I described in the initial part of the video, no one wants to live that kind of a life, right? But majority of the youngsters believe that they have to invest as much as they can, they have to reduce their expenses as much as possible, and maybe live like a sadhu to become rich. And to avoid this kind of a life, they say, I want to live each day as it comes. I want to live my life in now, right? Now, nothing wrong in that statement, but that's just another way they are saying that they want to avoid this kind of lifestyle, and they end up not planning their future because of this thought process they have, that they have to invest a lot, save a lot, and suffer today to become rich someday, right? And that's exactly is the problem why the young investors are not starting when they have all the time with them, especially when they're in their early 20s or mid 20s. But to all of you in your 20s, I want to tell you something. You have got something with you which significant majority of investors have already lost, and that is time. And investing is all about time. It is not about how much you invest. It is not even about how high returns you can make. It is more about what is the time period for which you are investing. So let's find out in a step-by-step process that how you should start your investing journey in your 20s. Step number 1, buy health insurance. Now, some of you might say, I'm young, I'm healthy. Why do I need health insurance? Now, we have already seen COVID, right? I don't need to convince you on that. But some of you might say, COVID is now gone. Now what? You can't expect COVID like thing every now and then. Please understand, a disease will always come uninvited and uninformed, right? So you don't want to be in a situation that you saved and invested for like last 3, 4, 5, 7 years, and something happens, even something small happens, and you end up wiping out the entire saving in that one small disease, or maybe wiping out your parents' retirement money into your medical expenses, right? And health insurance is extremely cheap, it's not expensive, and it is worth spending that money on your health insurance. So make sure you get a health insurance, number 1. Number 2, if you have dependent family members, be it your parents or maybe your spouse or your children, then buy a term plan. Go for only term plan. That's what I believe in. That's what I have got for myself. It's a waste of money if you're going with any of those maturity benefit insurance schemes, be it ULIP or be it endowment plan or all those traditional plans. I'll just recommend, find out about term plan, look at the amount of money you need to spend there in the premium and the kind of cover you get. You will know why I'm talking about term plan. So that's about insurance. Point number 2, avoid loans as much as possible. This is initial phase of your career. You are in your early 20s or mid 20s or maybe late 20s. You want freedom as much as possible in terms of being, jumping on to next career or maybe to a new venture or to a new city or to a new country. So avoid as much loans as possible, because that gives you freedom to choose what you want to choose. For example, let's say you take a home in the early part of your career and you have a huge EMI to be paid. Now, even if you get an opportunity somewhere else, you will think hard, you will think multiple times, or maybe even lose that opportunity thinking that you have to pay such a huge EMI here, then you go there and you pay rent. So is it even worth doing that? So you kind of bind yourself when you are under debt, right? You don't want to bound yourself, at least in the initial phase of your career, right? Same goes with another very common thing which is happening in India also now is credit card loans. So the motto or the mantra of credit card companies or the banks is catch them young. You might get attracted to all those offers and schemes and whatever benefits and perks you're getting out of the credit card, but you don't realize the way you are getting dependent on using those credit cards. at least in the initial part of your career, as I said, again in your 20s, avoid credit cards as much as possible. Number 3, vehicle loans. Again, avoid this loan as well. Don't buy that luxurious car or that big car today. Yeah, you can go with a small one which will have a very small EMI, or maybe a two-wheeler. Yeah, you can always buy a more expensive one later on. In the initial few years, keep your loan burden to be as low as possible, so that your mind is broadened and you have more ideas to invest into. Don't bind yourself in under debt and EMI in the initial few years of your career. It's a big no. Third step is go for emergency fund. Emergency fund is nothing like a buffer you keep for any emergencies or maybe some other expenses which you want to do. Ideally, if you have 6 to 12 months of your expenses in emergency fund, that's enough. And where is that fund kept? Typically, you can keep it in an FD, right? Or maybe in some debt mutual fund scheme. Right? The idea of emergency fund is simple, that for example, a COVID-like situation, and you end up losing your job, or someone ends up losing their business income, or some other emergency comes up, you have that fund available with you, and you don't have to break your long-term investments because of that. So that's like a buffer or a cushion you have for your long-term investing journey. And the most important one, step number 4, that is start your investments. Yeah, but the first 2 things you have to take care of is number 1, take insurance, both health and term plan, and number 2, go for have a buffer in terms of emergency fund, and number 3 was of course avoid loans. Then you start your investments. Now, when it comes to investments, there are many options available, I know, and it's confusing. You go for stocks, or you go for mutual funds. In mutual funds, which mutual fund scheme? In stocks, there are so many stocks, there's so many other investment options available. How do you do that in yourself? Number 1, you of course learn it and do it. But let's say you don't have enough time or maybe enough motivation to learn, then maybe hire someone who can do it for you. Let's say you're not even comfortable with that. You don't have anyone whom you can trust blindly, or trust that much that you can give your hard-earned money to them. Then the simple way to start investing is at least start with indexed mutual funds. Index mutual funds is just like investing in an index, for example, Sensex index fund, or maybe Nifty index fund, or Nifty Next 50. There are many index funds within that index fund domain as well. But start with those index funds so that you at least get exposure to equity in your early 20s. Right? Now, to give you some numbers, let me tell you some numbers on how starting early can make a difference. For example, you start with 20,000 rupees per month of investments, and you invest for next 40 years. Now, the assumption is you're not increasing your investments. You're investing the same amount for the next 40 years of your life, which is practically not true, but for the sake of example, we're talking. So 20,000 rupees per month for the next 40 years, and you get 12% returns on your investments. Your end amount after 40 years in your kitty will be 19.5 crore rupees. Understood? Now, second, you increase this amount by 5,000 rupees more. Instead of 20,000 rupees, you invest 25,000 rupees per month. And again for same 40 years and 12% rate of return. After 40 years, instead of 19.5 crore rupees, you will have 24.5 crore rupees. 5 crore rupees more by just shelling out 5,000 rupees per month from your existing income. Yeah, I think COVID has taught us enough to save that 5k extra. We know how we were spending money and how we can save that little 5k extra for sure. Right? Now, I'm not asking you to stop pampering yourself or stop indulging. No. Understand that investing, that spending 5k more on some maybe party or maybe some luxurious shopping and all will not make a huge difference to your lifestyle. But investing 5k more will make a huge difference to your financial life, right? So my recommendation will be invest that 5k more per month and then live each day as it comes. Make sense? So I hope you will make use of this most powerful tool you have in your 20s, that is time, and you will end up achieving all your financial goals. All the best.